Hi everyone, welcome back to Dragon Lady Crafts. In today's video, I'll show you how to install and set up Visual Studio Code, one of the most popular code editors out there. We'll make it ready for Python programming and HTML web development. Whether you're a beginner or just looking to set up a new machine, this guide is perfect for you. Let's dive in. Now we're going to open up our preferred web browser. For me, it is Google Chrome. And we're going to go to the website code.visualstudio.com. And here, if you're on a Windows machine, you can go ahead and click Download for Windows and it'll automatically start downloading. But if you're on a Mac OS or a Linux, you're going to click here on Other Platforms. And as you can see, you can download for your Mac, you can download for your Linux, and then, of course, you can download for Windows if you click the other platforms first. So since I'm on a Windows machine, I'm going to click on Windows. And as you can see, it started downloading. And here it will, let me click here to start the install. If it didn't, I would just go into my Downloads folder and double click on it to start the installation that way. And now we're going to start the install process by following the wizard. So here we're going to accept the agreement and click Next. We're going to leave our default location set and click Next. And then here is where you will assign it a folder name. If you want to change the folder name, you can do so. I always leave mine as the default. Then we click Next. And here you want to make sure that Add to Path is selected because this step will make it easier to open your Visual Studio Code from the terminal. So from here, and then here, if you want to create a desktop icon, you can do that. I always usually do. And then we're going to click Next. And then finally, we're going to click Install, and we're going to wait for the setup to complete. Once the setup is complete, you see here that we have the ability to launch Visual Studio Code right as we click Finish. So we're going to leave that checked, and then we're going to click Finish. I'm going to go ahead and close out this web browser. And I'm going to move that window right over here. And now we have our Visual Studio Code program open. When you open Visual Studio Code for the first time, you will see a welcome screen. So let's give you a quick tour. On the left, you will have the activities bar with icons for File Explorer, Search, Source Control, Run and Debug, and Extensions. In the center, you're going to see the editor area where your code will appear. And below there, it will show the terminal. Right now, it doesn't show the terminal, but in order to show one, all we have to do is just come up here to the top, click on Terminal, and then click on New Terminal. And down here is where our terminal will appear. As you can see right now, it is showing a PowerShell terminal, but I will show you how to change that to a terminal to where you can run your Python code a little bit later. Now we're going to install a couple of extensions. So right here on the extensions button, we're gonna click on that. And then as you see, a whole bunch of stuff starts to pop up. And up here in the search bar, we're going to type in Python. So as we get done typing Python, we're going to look at the fourth one down, which is our Python extension by Microsoft, and we're going to click Install. Or if you wanted to, you could have clicked on it and then clicked Install over here, and it will install the Python extension. And once it's installed, you'll have the option for disable, uninstall, or switch to the pre-release version. And what this extension does is it adds Python support, including debugging and IntelliSense. Now we're going to install the HTML extension. And from here, we're going to come back up here to Python and delete that. And here we're going to type in live server. And we're going to click on the first one and make sure that it is by Ritwick Day. And then we're going to click on install. This extension will let you preview your web pages in real time. And if you want, you might want to also install Prettier Code Formatter to keep your code clean and readable. And once it's installed, you'll see that you can have the choice of disabling it or installing it. So now we can go ahead and close out those extensions. And now we are ready to set up our Python environment. Now let's set up Python. If you don't already have Python installed, please go and check out my other video, Install Python 3.12.4. But by the time you watch this video, there could be a newer version out, so 3.12.4 might not be the latest version at the time of viewing this video. Now back over here in Visual Studio Code, we are now going to create our first file with the py extension so we can work on creating our Python coding scripts. So we're going to click on File, New File, which will then bring up our interpreter. So we're going to select Python file. And as you can see here, it lists that it's untitled. So now we're going to click on File, Save As, and I'm going to come down here and put it in my F drive, and I'm going to name it Test1, and then we are going to click Save. So now we are ready to start writing our Python code. Now to test that our Python setup is correctly working, we're going to type in print and then hello world in the brackets. And if you noticed with Visual Studio Code, that when I started writing everything, it started giving me hints, which will be very helpful when you're starting to learn how to code. So I'm going to press Control S to save my work, or you can come up here to File and then Save or Save As. So now we want to test to see that our code is currently working. But as you see down here in the bottom of the screen, it shows that it's a PowerShell script. We want to get into the command prompt so that way we can run our Python script. So we're going to click on this little down arrow here next to the plus sign in the PowerShell, and we're going to select command prompt. And as you see over here on the right, we now have two terminals. I usually just go ahead and click the trash can on the PowerShell to get rid of it. Now, as you see, we are in our C drive, but if you noticed when I saved the file, I saved it in my F drive. So we need to go from our current file and directory in our C drive to our F drive. And to do that, I'm going to type cd, then ... which will then take me back a folder. So I'm going to do that again, cd ... which then brings me back to my C drive. And then from here, I'm going to type F with a colon and then press enter. And now I'm in my F drive. So now to run our test1.py file, I'm going to type python test1.py and then press enter. And as you see, our script will work because our script works because you see the words hello world, which is what we told it to print to the terminal. Now to clear our screen, we're going to type in CLS, and it clears our screen up so that way we don't have a bunch of writing on our terminal. Now I'm going to create an HTML file. So instead of creating it from within Visual Studio Code, I am going to open up my F drive, and then I'm going to right click. I'm going to select new, then text document, and then I'm going to name it web test, and then I'm going to take off that txt file extension, and I'm going to give it HTML. And once I press enter, it's going to give me a message asking me that, if I'm sure I want to do this. I'm going to say yes. And as you can see, it now turns into an HTML document. And since Chrome is my default web browser, it will put the little Chrome icon on that file name. Of course, if you have a Mac, it will have whatever icon that is, and the same thing for Linux. So now I'm going to close out that little folder there, and then I'm going to go up here to File and Open File. And as you see right here, we've got our web test HTML. I'm going to open that up. And as you see here, we now have it open, and now it's time to start writing our web page. Since this is going to be a very basic website, we are just going to use the H1 tag, which is done by like I just typed in here. And if you notice with Visual Studio Code, it created my closing bracket for me, because with HTML, almost everything you do has to have an opening and a closing tag. So H1 just means that it is pretty much header 1, and it's the largest font of all the headers. So you've also got an H2 and an H3. So with the header 1, I'm going to type in H1 . This is my first website. So I'm going to do Control S to, if you notice, there's a little blue one here to say that I've got work that I haven't saved. So I'm going to press the Control button and the S button, and I just saved my work. Now to view what we've done in pretty much real time, we are going to right-click anywhere in this window, and we're going to click on Open with Live Server. Okay, now with this little error here, it means that we should have put our file into a folder. So what I am going to do is I'm going to come up here into my drive. I'm going to create that folder. I'm going to name it Test Folder. And I'm going to move this HTML file into that folder. And then I'm going to minimize that. So as you can see here, since the file is in a folder now, it can't see it directly on the main part of our F drive. So I'm just going to close out that little tab. I'm going to go ahead and close out the Python file as well. And I'm going to click right here on Explorer. And here I'm going to click on Open Folder. And as you see, here is our folder. So we're going to select it and then select Folder. And as you see here, here's our test folder. And here is our web test HTML file. And then now we're going to right click it and select Open with Live Server again. And when the web page pulls up, you will see that this is my first website will populate onto our web browser tab. So we have just created our first HTML website page. Okay, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and close out that web browser page. And we can go ahead and click Stop Live Server. And we can go ahead and close out all of these little messages down here at the bottom. With what you see here, this is pretty much the default settings of Visual Basic Studio, Visual Studio Code. But you can actually customize them to fit your preferences. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this. I'm going to close out the folder by clicking File and Close Folder, which just brings us back to our Welcome tab. So in order to customize Visual Studio Code to our preferences, we're going to come down here to the bottom and click on this little gear icon, which is Manage. And then we're going to access the settings. And here is where you can change your themes, your font size, and your other preferences. Me, personally, I just use the baseline generic setup. Also, you'll want to explore keyboard shortcuts to speed up your workflow. Like if you press and hold the Control button with the C, that will copy whatever line of code you want to copy. And if you press down the Control button and the V button, that will paste whatever you just copied into another area of your code. And that's it. You're now ready to use Visual Studio Code for Python and HTML development. Start coding and experimenting with your projects. If this video helped you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment below with any questions, and subscribe for more tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.